All right, we're live. Thanks, Mason. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for having me.
So I'm sorry it's taken so long, if I'm honest.
It's all about the right timing. The timing is
Exactly,
now.
exactly. And on the subject of timing, you've just qualified for the Elite 15 at the World Championships. So congrats.
Thank you. Very exciting. Yes. Yeah.
How are you feeling about it? You buzzing?
I am. I am very excited. It has felt like a very long season. My first race was way back in Switzerland 9 months ago now. The initial dream wasn't to do the Elite 15 this season, but obviously as we got into it, it's kind of snowballed and progressed. It wasn't kind of until Maastricht that I wanted to then try and get into the Elite 15 again for Worlds. Obviously incredibly happy. I'm very excited that it's on home turf. I'm in Manchester, so I know it's going to be such an epic event. But yes, I'm also very ready for the season to be finished.
I think a lot of people are, to be honest. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are. If we'll talk about your races and like the season a little bit, but can we start with some of your background, your sporting background? You did gymnastics when you were younger, was it?
That's right. Yes. I was an elite gymnast. I started training when I was 5. I quickly progressed through kind of club level into regionals, into county, and then into the British squad. I was part of the British team from the age of 9 all the way up to when I retired, up to I was 18. So I had a really good stint as one of the top UK gymnasts from a young age, and I think that's kind of put me in good stead to transfer a lot of the skills over to HYROX, which I now consider my second sport.
Okay, your second sport, what with behind gymnastics?
After gymnastics,
All
that's
right, all right.
right. Yeah.
So between the age of 18 and whatever you are now,
37.
37, what you've been doing for those 19 years?
um Well, after I had finished gymnastics, I kind of, like many athletes, really lost my way a little bit. I was in this incredible bubble. I was traveling kind of most weekends, competing for the country. I actually qualified for the Olympics way back in 2003. I was part of the team that got a team qualification and an individual qualification at the World Championships in 2003. Which was amazing, really great for the sport and for us as a team. But unfortunately, suffered injuries, as many athletes do. And as we were due to fly out to Barcelona, which was the holding camp, the Team UK holding camp before the Athens Olympics in 2004, I ruptured the ligaments in my wrist, vaulting, and when the team went out to compete for the Olympics, I was on an operating theatre having my wrist operated on. And that was kind of the end of my gymnastics career. And it took a while, really, after that, to kind of find out who I was as a person, not just as Becky the gymnast, as a lot of people have to deal with when they leave a sport and when sport is a huge part of them for so many years. I'd kind of been part of the GB team for the best part of 10 years. And I was then had to kind of find my own identity, who I was as a person, kind of where my place was in society. And obviously then I had to go and work because as a high performance gymnast, we were fully funded. I actually went and lived in the centralised system as well at Lilleshall at the National Sports Centre. So we were very much in this kind of bubble of coaching, training, eating, sleeping, traveling, everything was done for us. So I was very lucky. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of training. So it took me a few years to kind of find my way a little bit, but I've always been involved in fitness, health and sport. I actually went straight into coaching. I have always coached throughout my life sport, mainly in primary schools, actually. I still do that now. I work in the local primary schools, supporting teachers, mainly delivering gymnastics and netball at the minute. They're my two kind of specialists. So I do that alongside my PT business as well. So I always keep a hand in the sports side of things. And I've also I have 2 children. I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. So they keep me very busy as well. So that was kind of what I was up to for the best part of 17 years when I left gymnastics.
Okay, how that injury, like pre-Olympics, must have been pretty devastating, right?
Oh, it was, yeah, it was not only the injury itself, having to deal with kind of the rehab after that, but then I trained since the age of 5 up till I was 18 for this Olympic dream. Like, trained 6 days a week, 6 hours a day. It was my whole life. I missed a lot of school because of it. We had tutors that helped us through our GCSEs at 15. Literally from the age of 9, really, I'd have at least one day off school a week just to go and train. And most weekends were spent then training with the GB team. So then to have that kind of whole dream taken away, it was really hard work, really hard. But I had a lot of success. I was British champion 5 times. I did the Europeans, I did the Commonwealth Games as a junior. So I got a lot back from it. But obviously the Olympics is always going to be that dream. And I just thought to myself, I can't do this for another 4 years, because obviously you work on a 4-year cycle. I was 18 at the time, and I thought, no, it was all or nothing, and unfortunately it didn't quite work out for me. But I have a lot of positive takeaways from it.
Okay, good. Do you like? I think you sort of touched on it. You feel like that experience, just as a gymnast, has stood you in good stead for what you're doing now?
Absolutely. I think that the key things from a gymnast was I love to train. I really enjoy the process of training. I enjoy the discipline that it brings, the feeling for yourself, the personal, like the PBs that you get in the gym, the health and the fitness, the mental side, especially as a mum now. It's that little bit of time for myself, and then I can come back and support the family and do all those kind of jobs. But also the competitive side of gymnastics. Although I was part of a team, you're up there on the apparatus on your own, and so you have to be that calm. You have to have your game face on. You have to have kind of that focus and kind of ignore whatever is going on around you. And I can kind of use that now when I'm competing on race day as well, just to kind of block everything out, get my head down, get in my own head, and then just focus. And I think a lot of the lead up and the build up to competitions and events, I was learnt from a young age, and I'm able to then kind of just transfer those skills over to competition now.
I said to someone recently before London, I was like getting so nervous before the race, and like it didn't matter really. And I said to someone, like, I can't imagine, doing the Olympics or World Championships or something, like, and like being on this like 4-year cycle and like building up to that one event. Like, I'm doing like whatever, five HYROXs a year, and I still get nervous for it. The difference is crazy, really.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. And I kind of said that to myself when I was kind of getting a little bit worked up. Obviously, when I found out that I was going to Maastricht, and obviously the Elite 15 there, and it was like, oh, this is kind of what I've been working towards, and this is what I want to do. And I kind of thought to myself, there's no point in getting nervous. Like, you've stood on a world stage already and stayed on a 4-inch beam on your own, kind of competing for your country. You can run around a track in arena and get a bit sweaty. You'll be okay. So it's all relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we talk about your races and what you've done in HYROX, I'll rattle off some of what I can see. So you're the UK's fastest ever woman. You've run 10 races in total, 1 doubles where you finished 2nd. You've done the 1 championship in Maastricht, and then 8 individual races. 1st place in 7 in your age group, 1 second. 1st place in Vegas at the World Championships last year. So not a bad little record.
Not bad for somebody who doesn't consider herself an athlete. Yeah.
And you've got the 7th fastest qualifying time this year in Barcelona with a 1:03:57, which was a world record in the 35 to 39 age group. Pretty amazing. I don't know where to start with that. I guess with the Barcelona race, like, it looks like you fairly consistently have improved your times over time, which not a lot of people do really in HYROX, I wouldn't say. And in Barcelona was a 4-minute PB, which is fairly significant at the level you're at. Like, did you feel like that was possible? And also, like, follow-up questions like, what has made that possible? What do you feel has contributed towards that consistent improvement?
Going into Barcelona, I absolutely felt like I was ready for it, and I knew I was peaking and ready for a really, really good time. I think the main thing with me is I'm certainly not the fastest, I'm not the strongest, I'm definitely not the fittest, but I'm very consistent in my training. Um, I haven't got just time to just train willy-nilly. I'm very focused in what I do. And I think with HYROX as well, we need to be looking at the data that it gives us after every race and where we can improve on, and then basically going back into training and improving on those areas. If you look at my basal results, I've got like a 5.5 minute wall ball. I literally died on those wall balls at the end of that race, but it was a big step up on that race. So first race of the season, I'm stood on the start line with Linda and Miriam and Sophie Kaiser, who's the world record holder, and then you've got Felicity was there as well. And I've literally just come from my first pro event in Vegas to standing up and competing at pro women in my first European event, first one of the season. And I was like, whoa, nothing like kind of jumping in at the deep end here with all these amazing girls. But I was actually more proud of my results at that race than I was at becoming world champion in Vegas, because this was a hard race. This I needed to step up and level up to be here, and racing with them, I learned a lot, and it was a great start to the season because it did make me kind of realize what the next level was all about. So I kind of got to the end of the race. I worked the hardest I'd ever had done in a race before, and just completely died on the wall balls. It took me 5.5 minutes, and I was just like really kind of, I need to sort this out. So I went back to the gym. What do? We repeat the wall balls. We carry on with everything else, but we literally just kind of work on all those little things that need working on. For me, it was the wall balls. So then we go to Birmingham and we improve the time, even just the wall balls by a minute. And so that dramatically reduces your time straight away. So using the data that we have and being very specific about kind of then going back into training and working on that. I think with Barcelona as well, I was in a really good place mentally. At the end of last season, I absolutely burnt out and wasn't sure whether I was actually going to race again in January. I'm not sure if I hadn't got the Elite 15 place, how much I would have raced this year. I did Switzerland, I then did Birmingham, and I got to London. And I don't know, something just felt off when I got to London. I'd done 3 big events, had all that hype. And I think people underestimate as well how much, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, continuous racing and training has on you and your body. And I got to London and I was feeling all right, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. Something was off. I wasn't excited to race. I was just kind of going through the motions. I got severe cramp halfway round. And I think if my kids weren't there, I probably would maybe have not finished the race. I did, thankfully, and I won it, but I think I only won because I just wanted it to be over. I was just like, I just need this to be done now. Like, just get me over that finish line. And yeah, so my body wasn't quite right. My head wasn't in it. And then I got to December. 2 weeks later, I got COVID. So I was kind of down and out physically. I'd been pushed out the Elite 15, so I then wasn't going to race in Maastricht as well. So that was out of the question. I just felt tired, like in everything. It was kind of coming up to Christmas, which is a busy time anyway with the kids and the family and everything else. And I said to my coach, Jade, I said, I'm out. Like, I can't be on plan anymore. I'm just done. I just need some time really to myself and to kind of, I'm not enjoying this at the minute. And the reason I do this is because I enjoy it. I enjoy the training. I'm actually standing in the gym. I don't want to train. And that's really hard for somebody who loves the process and that kind of thing to not want to do it. I was almost like rebelling, like, no, I'm done. I've had enough. So I then kind of took a big step back over December, did a bit of training, but it was just what I felt like doing really. Then we had Christmas. I got over COVID, thankfully, and then I got the call just after Christmas to say, you are in the Elite 15 now. And it was a bit like, okay, right, it's either time to step up or step out. Thankfully, I decided to step up, got back to training. I was training one of my clients. I bent over the sled to take one of the plates off and I sprained my lower back. So then injured myself literally about 4 weeks before I went to Maastricht. And I think when I went to Maastricht, I just was just not in a good place. I hadn't trained properly. Mentally, I was kind of a bit broken. But then obviously really enjoyed it. Did a lot better than I thought I was going to do, considering the circumstance, like the previous 6 weeks. And I got back from Maastricht and I was like, right, we're going to do this. I booked Barcelona straight away and I thought, I'm going all in again, rehab my back. Mentally, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to get back on the good nutrition, get the training down. I'm much better when I've got all this structure around me. And then the focus became Barcelona, and I kind of just went all in. So by the time Barcelona came, I was not injured, so I was physically strong. I'd gone back to doing the strength training, which I hadn't previously done because of my back injury. Mentally, I was up for it. Quite funny actually that nobody put me in the top 5, like all the pre kind of social media behind it, or my name wasn't mentioned once, which actually did me a big favor because I was able just to show up and just kind of be in the shadow. Like nobody was like, unfortunately, Felicity was kind of put there in the front, so I think she felt a lot more pressure than I did. So I was able just to chill out a little bit on the start line. I knew what I was capable of doing. I know how I wanted to race. And I also knew which other girls were there. They were fast girls, and I knew that initially I wasn't able to keep up with them. So I was able just to kind of stick to my own strategy. And yeah, I suppose with Barcelona, it was just a combination of feeling good physically, mentally, and knowing what I was capable of. It was just that snowball effect, and thankfully that's continued now. So it's been quite a season.
Yeah, it has. I mean, people race a lot in HYROX, don't they? I think if this was a half marathon or marathon, and people doing like 5, 6, 7, 8 marathons a year, you'd be like, "What are you doing?
What are you doing?"
Yeah. Okay, and then really since that Barcelona time, have you like felt fairly secure in the Elite 15, and like the Worlds has been your focus since that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought hopefully with that time I'll be secure, but you never know. I mean, the times this year are just incredible. Like they are amazing, and the sport is moving on so fast now. For Meg then tonight dropping a sub 60 on the females, like insane, like which is amazing because she gets better and it makes us get better. But yeah, I was just hopeful. I said to myself, I'm all in Barcelona. I'm either in or I'm not racing again singles. I will just go and try and get my world title back as an age group athlete. So I was always going to go to Worlds. It was just depending on which event I was going to do. But I wanted to do Malaga as a doubles. I've never raced a doubles, and my doubles partner Stuart messaged me at the start of this season and said, "Do you fancy a mixed one?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds great, but obviously my individual is the priority." But I wanted to get in another race before Barcelona and Worlds, just for race practice, a little bit of fine tuning. I think that competition exposure is really important, but without the pressure. And I thought that would be a really good one. So just slipped in that mixed doubles. But we will definitely race doubles again. We got our sub 60. That was on our list to do, but I think we can definitely do better.
Okay. No, I asked if anyone had any questions for you, and seeing as we're talking about the doubles, someone asked what would your tip be for? I think she was moving. She's only done doubles and she's moving to singles. Have you got any tips for that move? Like, what's the primary differences that you see between the two events?
Well, for me, actually, I thought it was going to be a lot easier doing doubles than it actually was.
Yeah, I fell into that trap too.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought I'm going to have more breaks. I'm going to be able to breathe. Actually, it was a lot more intense because you are working at a higher intense level for the time that you are actually working on. So my main tip would be that when you are racing singles is that you pace yourself a lot better. My heart rate was actually got a lot higher in my doubles than it did in my singles. Although you do get those breaks, but the work that you're doing is at a higher intensity. And ultimately, we were trying to run at a faster pace that I am would run individually as well, because you should be getting a little bit more rest. So yeah, my main thing would be just to pace yourself better in your singles than you would do in a doubles race.
Yeah, yeah. I London just gone was my first like singles since my first doubles, which was in Manchester. And I come away, I was like, that was quite nice in comparison, actually. Like, 'cause the doubles in Manchester was brutal. I remember Ian Irving said to me, a lot of people had said to me, like, "Oh, doubles, you'll find that easy." Like, you know, if you've only done singles, you'll find it easy. And Ian Irving said, "No, if you find it easy, you're doing it wrong."
Doing it wrong,
Yeah.
absolutely. We got over that finish line. I was like, that was hard. I am
Yeah.
still very tired.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Go back to the worlds, the elite race. How you feeling about going into that? Have you got any expectations, tactics, anything like that?
Not really. The main feeling that comes up is excitement. I am just so excited for the whole weekend. I think I get a really good vibe from the chat from people that everybody's really looking forward to it. I mean, there's some incredible ladies racing. I'm excited to be on the start line with them. It's going to be one hell of a race, like to watch. Like we are all so close together. So I think it would be really hard to actually predict. If I can maintain my top 10, that's kind of where I want to be. I think next season is when I kind of want to be starting to work towards the top 5. But if I can maintain top 10, I will be really happy. As always, my race tactics is my strongest events are the second half of the race. So it's keeping up with the girls at the front, but not leading from the dot. It's almost I like to kind of think of one of my HYROX races as a little bit more like a negative split, that I am kind of just improving a little bit on each one. And then after the road, that's when I kind of really try and attack and go all out. But until then, really, it's staying up there, but I'm not worried if I'm not kind of up in front.
Okay. Okay. Is it more? Are you? So you are looking at what they're doing. Like, so presumably Lauren, for example, is going to go out hot.
Yes, yeah.
You're not going to like try and stay there. It's more at your own pace.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I'd just be silly to try and chase her at the beginning. I think it wouldn't suit me to do that. I know the events that I am good at that I can then push forward a little bit more on. I would rather sit back to start with and push a bit further on in the race.
Okay. How do you feel about the elite qualifying, based on times? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you are being strategic about it, you can work it to your own advantage, like looking at what races are fast. I think personally, I think it should be the best of 3 races. So you race at 3 different venues and then you get a combined and median time from that, maybe. That'll be great for HYROX as well, because it will mean that there'll be more elite and pro racers knocking around all the different events. But just going off one race, I don't think that's enough really. I obviously what happened at the weekend in Hong Kong, what a race that was. It's kind of right down to the end of the line, and obviously they've had to travel over there. Then Tom's had to come back, and now he's got to try and peak again in less than 2 weeks. I mean, that's a lot. And on that, all that uncertainty is not ideal, really, when you're trying to build momentum and intensify your training ready for a race. So for me, it'd be great to look at it. I think as well, I was on a bit of a losing streak from it as well, because obviously went to Maastricht, I came 10th, but then I was out of the Elite 15 still, even though I'd climbed spaces up at that event. I then had to, even though I'd beaten some of the girls, I was still out. So I still had to then go back and requalify. So there's definitely loopholes and things that need working out. So I would hope that they are looking at a better qualification process.
Be interesting to see what they do this summer. Okay, so I like I said, I asked people if they had any questions, and we've had a few come in. One is about basically how do you do all this? Being a mum, working, being an athlete. How do you how do you manage your time
It's
to
hard.
get
I'm
all
not.
of this
I
done?
like hold my hand up. It is hard. It is, and I am incredibly organized. That's the first thing. I have my diary at the start of the week. I've got like my non-negotiables there, which is kind of I do the school run every single day. When I took on my own business, that was kind of one of my non-negotiables, that I want to be there for the kids in the morning and pick them up and give them the tea and then cart them off to their after school clubs. So I do that every day, and that's set. I obviously have my clients, I work in the schools, and I have to train. So most of the time, 5:30 in the morning is free. So that's when I get my sessions in. So I'm normally home again for 7 to shower, give the kids the breakfast, get to the school run, and then I'm back to work for 9 o'clock. But it is hard. And I will say that you feel guilty so much of the time. If you're with the kids, then you feel guilty that you're not at work. If you're not at work, you feel guilty that you're not training. And when you're training, you feel guilty that you're not doing everything else. And unfortunately, it's just having that balance. But training for me has been and is always a huge part of my life. And it's a choice at the end of the day. What I choose to do this, so I don't see it as a chore. And you make it work then, because you want it to work. It's a good. I see this as a positive thing, and I'm lucky that I've got a good support network as well. I've got really good family and friends around me, and they understand, especially leading up to a race, how important it is, structure and discipline, and consistency with everything is. Ask me in 2 weeks and I'll just be, I'm not training, I'm done, I've had enough of it all. And I'm having a lie-in, and I'm not having any more ice baths, put it that way.
You're allowed some time off.
Yes.
um, all right. Another question. Would be curious to know if she is training with her menstrual cycle and how she's approaching training races in different phases of your cycle.
Actually, I don't have a menstrual cycle. I have the implant, so I don't have to deal with any of that. So I do have each month, obviously, yeah, your low mood. Sometimes you feel a little bit tired, you're hungry, and it's just listening to your body on those things and actually being a little bit more in tune. One thing that I've really worked on this season is being a lot more in tune with how I'm feeling, knowing which days I can push, knowing which days I need to pull back. If I need to take a rest day, I'm taking a rest day, and I'll just switch my training to a different day. Ultimately, you're not going to be hitting PBs every single week. And some weeks you're just going to be a little bit slower, and it's just it's just being a little bit more in tune with yourself, because your body knows exactly what it needs. You just need to listen to it. And that's one thing that I've been a lot better at this season than I was in my first season, is being a lot more in tune to listening to what my body needs, and whether it's extra sleep, what food it needs, fueling correctly, and that kind of thing. So yeah, just taking a little bit of time to recognize the signals and signs.
Okay, cool. What's your best ever sporting experience?
Ooh. Probably actually, well, two. I've got to say two. Both of them are the World Championships. One is gymnast, way back in 2003, and last year standing on the podium as HYROX World Champion, because that was definitely not expected.
Multiple world championship experiences.
That's what my other half always says. He's like, "So what sport are we trying next?"
How about the toughest thing you've ever done in sport?
The toughest. Coming back from injury, that's really hard. That's hard as much mentally as it is physically, because you've just got to give it time, and it's frustrating. And no matter what anybody says to you, you have to deal with that yourself. And I think for me, it's like with my back injury at the start of the year, and I have ongoing knee and lower back issues continuously. I've got arthritis in my left knee. I've got a condition called Sherman's in my lower back, and they're all kind of gymnast injuries. So I have to make sure that I'm really on top of them to every single day, really. I joke, put on Instagram, I joke that it takes me as long to warm up as it does to do the actual session. But that's all really important. You know, that maintenance is really, really important to keep your body going. Whereas when I was 18, it used to just be get your shoes on and run and off you go and not think about anything else. Whereas now, that maintenance side. So I think that the toughest experience is definitely kind of dealing with injuries and if you're not mentally there in your game, or if you have a bad competition as well, like turning it back round and being like, I'm not going to dwell on this. I need to focus on everything that I can do and everything that I've done in the past and lead with that.
Okay. All right. Away from questions for a second, but as you know, I'm doing a survey at the moment of the Elite 15 qualifiers. How fast you can run, much you can lift, and so on. For your 5K, you said just over 19 minutes, right?
Yep.
42 minutes for your 10K, roughly. One observation I've got from this is like, I feel like you run very much closer to your 5K pace in a HYROX than a lot of people do. Do you put that down to anything?
Not really. No. Just I try not. I don't. Well, I do wear a watch, but it's more for my heart rate. I kind of just go on how I'm feeling more than anything, and I was a lot more consistent in my splits in Barcelona than I've ever been. So I'm obviously fine tuning that running, but. My background isn't in running at all. As a gymnast, the longest we had to run was down or across a 12.5 meter floor area. Like there was no endurance side of running at all. So and I've never been a massive fan of running. It's something that I've really, really had to work on every single week, really, in the last kind of 18 months. And I'm getting to the phase where I am enjoying it now, but it has been a struggle. So I'm still 100% learning on myself as on pacing and that kind of thing and improving. But it's not a short-term thing, as we all know. It's something that's going to have to just keep improving over time. So I am getting more aware, but it's still a big work in progress.
Yeah. And do you, I wonder as well if, like, I know you touched on it in your survey, and I'll put it into the article a bit more. But you sort of touched on your mindset and your experience in competition, and it got me wondering whether you're just able to like sit at that level for an hour, like a horrible level that a lot of people probably don't want to sit at. You know,
Yeah.
like close to your 5K pace is pretty rough for an hour.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
whereas
absolutely, and that suits me. Like I much prefer in training, like the conditioning, the metcon style workouts where I am hitting hard, getting in that mental place. I think my mental resilience and that we talk about it a lot in HYROX is it's gonna hurt, and it's just putting up with that hurt, that grit, and you can't teach that. Unfortunately, that's not, you either can do it or you can't, and you can train a little bit for it and stick in it. But yeah, I sit in the red pretty much for the whole of from the start. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
I think like my heart rate will sit around probably 160 to 180 for the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. And I can imagine, like, and looking at your skier 2K skier time 8:28, your row time is 8:07, and when I looked at your paces from Barcelona on those as well, it's like you're at that top end as well for those. So yeah, I can imagine you're in the red for most of that. Someone asked about your rowing coach. I think you had a rowing coach for a while.
I did.
Was that beneficial?
Really beneficial, actually. I'm not the biggest. I'm only 5'1", and probably not the heaviest. So the ergs are a challenge to me. I have to work really hard on them. I don't mind the skiing, maybe because it's at the start, so you get it over and done with. But I think the placement of the row, it's quite a pivotal point in the competition. The row is, and I think as well that you're running and you're moving continuously through the other elements, whereas you come on the row and you sat down. And I think that lack of movement kind of forces you to breathe and kind of go through that motion. And I do struggle with the row. And like we talked about earlier, how have you improved? Well, one area that I wanted to improve on was my rowing. So I went and got some rowing help and support. And she's a brilliant rowing coach. She's a Concept 2 British record holder herself. So she knows her stuff. And we basically just broke it down and went through the technique, because I've never had any coaching on the ergs before. So not only for me as an athlete, but it's also great for me as a coach to be able to then put that onto my own clients. And so we just had 5 sessions. We just basically went through the technique. We talked about the strokes, where she feels like I need to be sitting in. Basically, she told me I need to slow down and kind of not kind of thrash it out too much, and kind of use my legs a lot more, whereas we see a lot of kind of the upper body work with a lot of people. And that's really helped. And as a result of that, each week now I'm adding in rowing drills and just steady, like just sitting on a rower and doing 5K. You know, it's not fast and it's not hard, but it's just time. Like we say with running, time on your feet, just get out. It all adds up. So just spending time on these machines and just getting comfortable with them.
Okay. Oh, cool. If you were going to change one thing about HYROX so that it more perfectly suited you, what would it be?
Yeah, take out the rowing. Oh, I don't know. I have had this conversation with one of my clients actually, and we said about like maybe changing the order, you know, because she said to me, you said that they put the wall balls at the end for a reason, because actually wall balling on their own is not so bad, but at the end of the HYROX is really bad. So maybe changing the way that the setup would be an interesting theme. So if you put the wall balls more at the front, then at the back, maybe that might change the dynamic. Have the farmers carry last. They literally pick them up and run fast. And but for me, actually, because running is not my strongest, actually the components are my strength and where I feel like I can attack a little bit more. Actually having a component on the end helps me. If there was a run at the end, I think I might struggle more than I do, because the runners would then be able to take off a bit faster. So how it is now suits me, my style and my strength, but maybe changing the order of things would be an interesting way, and I might change the dynamics of a competition.
All right. Just going back to what we were talking about is like you sitting in that red for the competition and so on. What are you thinking about during the race? Where does your mind go?
So I have a little bit of a mantra, which is this is my fun. And it's just reminding me that I am choosing to be here. That I feel very grateful to be on that start line. Because one, I'm in good health. I've got there because my injuries are not so bad. There's a lot of people who haven't got the opportunity to do this. So I try and flip it over and say, like, this is my choice. I don't have to do this. Nobody's making me do this. I'm here because I want to do this. And ultimately I'm good at this. So let's push, let's do this. And enjoy it and realize like that this is my happy place. Like this is what you've trained for. Actually, an event is kind of the icing on the cake now. What you've done previously is the hard work. This is the fun bit. And obviously having my kids at events, they'll be there in Manchester. So seeing them and giving them a little high five on the way through, you know, hopefully it's inspiring them. And I think the only influencer that I set out to be is to be a good influence on those two. And if they can see that mummy's capable of doing hard things, then they can absolutely do it as well. So yeah, having them in the forefront of my mind is definitely what my why.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you for this. I've really enjoyed it. Is there anything you wish I'd asked before we finish up?
No. Are you looking forward to commentating?
I am. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm meant to say this yet. I shared it on my stories, but they're announcing on Friday. But yes, I am. Yeah. I was a little bit like, oh God, at first when they asked me. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm doing it with HYROX, who's awesome as well. So it's a privilege, like you say, it's a privilege to be able to do it. So yeah, it's gonna be good.
Good.
And hopefully I'll be interviewing you at the end, because I'm interviewing the top 3. So
brilliant. Oh, that would be nice.
All right, thank you for this. Good luck for Manchester. I'll see you there.
Yes.
Is there anywhere where should people go to follow you, find out more about you?
On my Instagram is the best place. It's Beck Mason PT. I will quite often put all my workouts, daily activities up on there. So yeah, give me a follow.
All right, perfect. All right, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, good luck for Manchester, and I will talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.